right now, as you watch this, someone somewhere thinks of you with a heart heavy with resentment, not in admiration, not in love, but in the quiet bitterness that only envy can produce. Your very existence reminds them of what they lack, and that truth burns deeper than words. Envy is the most silent of poisons, far more dangerous than hatred or anger. It doesn't shout, nor does it vanish after a burst of rage. Instead, it lingers like smoke in the air, hidden behind polite smiles and empty compliments. Machiavelli understood envy better than almost anyone in history, for he saw how it corrodes power. The higher you rise, the more eyes follow you into the light. Some celebrate, but far more curse you silently, disguising jealousy as judgment. They will never admit the true reason they despise you, for envy never announces itself. Instead, they call you arrogant, lucky, or undeserving of success. Their resentment hides behind morality, pretending to care about justice when in truth it is hunger. At its core lies one undeniable fact: you possess what they crave. Instead of building their own path, they take comfort in tearing at yours. Their envy becomes a weapon, not born of strength but of weakness dressed in disguise. This is the reality of power, one most men are unprepared to face. To rise above the crowd is to invite silent hatred into your life. To excel is to awaken envy in those who secretly desire to be you. To rise is to invite enemies you never asked for and rivals you never created. Their hostility is not a reaction to cruelty, but to competence. It is not your sins that provoke them, but your success. This is why envy is venomous, because it punishes you not for your failures, but for your victories. It hunts the man who dares to stand tall, sparing the one who hides among the crowd. The weak are ignored, but the strong are resented simply for existing. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should never be naive about human nature. Men reveal their truest selves, not in peace, but when others rise above them. In such moments, envy stirs like a serpent, coiling in shadows, waiting to strike. The envious will not challenge you directly, for courage is not theirs. Instead, they whisper, undermine, and erode your reputation bit by bit. They craft narratives not to match reality, but to soothe their wounded pride. They will call discipline obsession, ambition greed, and confidence arrogance. They twist virtues into vices so they may feel absolved of mediocrity. And they do this not through open attack, but through slow poison carried in social whispers. This is the cunning of envy. It disguises itself as morality while plotting your downfall. It convinces the crowd that tearing you down is righteous, not jealous. And the crowd, hungry for spectacle, is quick to believe the lie. To survive, you must not only recognize envy, but learn to weaponize it. Their resentment must become proof of your influence. For no man is envied for being insignificant. The dogs bark only when the carriage moves. The jealous speak only when your actions disturb the comfort of their mediocrity. Their words are not curses, but confirmations of your advance. Machiavelli knew envy is not a burden, but a signal. It is the echo of your success reverberating in the hollow hearts of the unfulfilled. To be envied is to be acknowledged as superior, even by your enemies. But recognition is not enough. It must be harnessed. Envy can destroy if ignored, but empower if exploited. The art lies in turning their hate into fuel for power. Do this by never denying their envy, but provoking it carefully. Show just enough strength to ignite their jealousy, but not enough to unite them. A wise ruler lets envy divide enemies before it unites them. History is filled with men who mastered this dance. Caesar walked Rome knowing senators envied his victories, yet he played rivalries against one another. Napoleon wore his enemies' jealousy as armor, knowing envy makes men predictable. Machiavelli's wisdom was clear. To rise is to accept envy as part of the throne. Power cannot be separated from resentment, for visibility itself breeds comparison. And comparison is the root of envy, as men measure themselves not by themselves, but against you. Understand this, and their poison cannot corrode you. Reject it, and you will fall to attacks unseen. The choice is whether you treat envy as weakness or as resource. Their envy may spread lies, but lies spread attention. It may fuel conspiracies, but conspiracies reveal who fears you most. It may erode trust, but erosion shows who truly stands by your side. Each act of jealousy unmasks the weak behind friendship. Each bitter remark unmasks the rival cloaked as ally. Envy unmasks the world, and if you read it well, you hold a map of hidden loyalties. This is why envy is both danger and gift. It reveals where enemies' pressure points lie. It tells you who watches, who covets, and who plots. The greatest error is believing envy will disappear. You cannot outgrow it, outrun it, or outshine it without provoking more. The brighter the flame, the more moths it consumes. So what should you do with this force that haunts the powerful? You embrace it, not as curse, but as confirmation. You let it sharpen your awareness, harden your spirit, and prepare you for greater battles. For envy is the applause of the bitter, the silent recognition of your dominance. It is the shadow that follows every man who dares to walk in the light. It is the proof that you have stepped beyond mediocrity. That is why envy is not the end of power, but the beginning. To master power, you must first master envy, and to master envy, you must never fear being hated for what you have built. Those who hate you for winning have already declared themselves defeated. Those who envy your position reveal themselves through frustration. Those who cloak jealousy as morality will choke on their own dissection. This is the first law of envy. Envy is not just a silent poison, it is also a mirror. It reflects the deepest insecurities of those around you, showing what they cannot face within themselves. When someone envies you, they reveal not your weakness, but the depth of their own wounds. This is why Machiavelli urged rulers to study envy as carefully as loyalty. Loyalty shows who stands with you, but envy exposes who longs to replace you in silence. It becomes a radar for ambition, a signal of hidden hunger, and a map of betrayal. To ignore envy is to be blind to the forces shaping human interaction beneath the surface. The courtier who flatters you the loudest may quietly resent you the most. The ally who praises your victories publicly may secretly despise you in private. But there is a paradox in envy that can be twisted into an advantage by the wise. Those who envy you will always watch you more closely than anyone else. And in their obsessive watching, they inevitably reveal the places where they are weak. Their jealousy makes them predictable because it chains them to comparison with you. They cannot stop measuring their worth against yours, even when it destroys them inside. And in that endless measurement, they reveal the very parts of themselves they hate. This is the hidden opportunity lying inside their resentment and bitterness. Envy is not just proof of your success. It is a weapon you can control. For the man who envies you has already enslaved himself to his own emotions. Machiavelli would remind us that power is not built by crushing emotions, but by directing them. You do not need to erase envy, you only need to redirect it into strength. Like a skilled rider, you must guide the wild horse instead of letting it throw you. When people envy you, they give you attention without you ever demanding it. They spread your name even in your absence, carrying your reputation for you. Their hatred becomes free publicity, and their resentment becomes free advertisement. History shows how leaders and rulers have been magnified by the envy of others. The jealous whisper, mock, and criticize them, yet cannot stop obsessing over them. And with every word they spread, they strengthen the very figure they secretly despise. This is the first way to turn envy into power. Let it fuel your visibility. If they must speak of you, give them something unforgettable to discuss and carry. By achieving more, not less, you force them to amplify your reputation unwillingly. The second way to wield envy as a weapon is to use it as a divider. Jealous people rarely unite for long because envy isolates and separates them naturally. Each secretly believes they deserve your place more than anyone else alive. Machiavelli warned that nothing fractures alliances faster than shared envy and desire. No two men can crave the same throne without becoming enemies to each other. If stoked carefully, their jealousy will tear them apart before it ever reaches you. Kings in history used this principle by elevating one courtier above the rest. Generals rewarded a single commander more than others, sparking rivalry and division. In this way, envy became the spark that ensured competition instead of unity. You can use the same approach in life by letting rivals destroy themselves quietly. Allow envy to fester among those who already crave what you have gained. A single spark of jealousy can consume entire alliances, leaving you untouched at the center. The third way to turn envy into power is purely psychological and deeply strategic. When you know someone envies you, you immediately hold leverage over them. Their emotions betray them, and that betrayal makes them vulnerable to control. If you want to dominate an envious man, you do not attack him directly. Instead, you offer subtle recognition, crumbs of attention, and praise to feed his pride. This keeps him hungry, dependent, and never truly independent from your shadow. Machiavelli advised princes to appear generous with recognition yet guard real power. By flattering the envious, you disarm their resentment while deepening their attachment. Their desperate hunger to be acknowledged exposes just how weak they truly are. But envy cannot be eliminated. It can only be redirected into useful channels. You cannot cure jealousy because it is woven into the very nature of mankind. The desire to possess what another man has is eternal and unshakable. The wise man therefore never seeks universal love or constant admiration. He accepts that envy and admiration are bound together like two sides of a coin. He learns to walk calmly through resentment instead of fleeing from it in fear. For what does it mean when people envy you in silence or in whispers? It means you are doing something they cannot achieve or replicate themselves. It means you stand where they cannot reach, and that truth terrifies them completely. Their envy confirms your position far more than their shallow words of love. Love is often temporary, given freely, and withdrawn just as easily in time. But envy is earned deeply, paid in the silence of those who cannot surpass you. This is why you should never lower yourself just to ease the jealousy of others. Do not dim your light to soothe their eyes, for the darkness offers no reward. Instead, rise higher, shine brighter, and let envy prove your fire burns strong. In this way, envy transforms into fuel for your ambition rather than a chain. It reminds you that success is not measured only by applause and praise. It is measured also by the bitterness you awaken in those who cannot match you. Machiavelli observed that men would rather harm someone than let him rise. This truth is eternal, which is why envy will always follow the ambitious. The wise man does not fear this, but prepares for it and profits from it. Every word of gossip, every insult, and every jealous glance is energy for you. They waste their strength hating while you conserve yours for building further. Their resentment consumes them endlessly, while your power multiplies silently. To truly master envy, you must also master your own inner emotions. If you react to every insult, you show weakness and invite further provocation. But indifference transforms their hatred into humiliation that burns them instead of you. Nothing enrages the envious more than your calmness in the face of provocation. When they fail to disturb you, their resentment turns inward and devours them. In desperation, they make mistakes that expose their true intentions for all to see. Thus, the mastery of envy is both an external strategy and an internal discipline. You must harden your mind so jealousy cannot pierce your composure at all. Let their bitterness wash over you like waves striking stone, leaving you untouched. In the end, envy is not your enemy, but your greatest form of confirmation. It proves you are on the right path, that your rise cannot be ignored. It shows you stand in the light, and that the crowd is trapped in shadow. This is how Machiavelli would want envy to be seen and understood, not as a curse, but as a compass pointing directly toward greater power. It shows you matter, it shifts the balance, and it marks you as significant. So let them envy you, whisper about you, and scheme in their resentment. Their plotting only strengthens your legend and magnifies your reputation. Every bitter heart becomes another voice declaring you are untouchable. Envy is not only a force that surrounds the powerful, it is also a weapon waiting to be sharpened. The same poison that corrodes friendships and alliances can be poured into the hands of a master strategist. And if you learn how to direct it, envy becomes one of the most devastating psychological tools in existence. Machiavelli believed that a ruler should never waste resentment when it can be turned into advantage. For hatred, unlike envy, burns openly, and open fire is easier to extinguish. But envy is subtle, quiet, and invisible, which makes it far more effective when used as a tool. To manipulate envy, you must first understand its true nature. It does not come from hatred of you as a person, but from longing for what you represent. The envious do not truly despise you. They despise the reminder that they have failed where you succeeded. This truth gives you enormous power because you can shape how they interpret their own inadequacy. You can direct their envy into rivalry, into dependency, or into submission. But the key is always control, for envy without direction is chaos, and envy directed with precision is power. The first strategy is to use envy to control perception. When people envy you, they are already obsessed with watching you. Their eyes follow your every move, and you can stage what they see to manipulate their emotions further. This is why leaders of old understood the value of spectacle. They allowed their subjects to see just enough of their luxury and power to inspire awe and jealousy. And yet they also sprinkled hints of struggle to appear more human, ensuring the envy never turned into outright rebellion. You must do the same in your own arena. Reveal victories with subtlety, but always reveal them enough to provoke silent comparison. Give people something to admire, something to hate, and something to secretly crave all at once. The second strategy is to set rivals against each other by feeding envy strategically. Reward one just slightly, more than another, and you will plant resentment between them. In time, they will spend more energy fighting each other than fighting you. This method is timeless because envy divides where fear and love unite. Fear can rally people together against a common enemy, and love can build alliances. But envy tears partnerships apart from within, like rot inside a wooden beam. Machiavelli observed how the Medici in Florence thrived on this principle. They played noble houses against one another by favoring one family today and another tomorrow. None could unite against them because envy dissolved their trust faster than any sword could. The third strategy is to cloak your true strength behind carefully crafted envy. Let them think they know what you possess, but always keep your real power hidden. Envy thrives on appearances, so if you control appearances, you control their envy. For example, a ruler may show wealth in jewels and palaces while hiding his real wealth in armies and spies. The nobles envy the jewels, but do not suspect the hidden steel. When their envy erupts, they attack the symbol, but never the substance, and by then, it is too late. In your own life, you can use the same deception. Let people envy superficial signs of your success while never revealing the foundations of your true advantage. That way, their jealousy blinds them to the real source of your strength. The fourth strategy is to turn envy into a trap. Offer opportunities that provoke jealousy among those who desire your approval. Watch as they compete, backstab, and sabotage each other, all while believing they are serving you. This tactic requires patience, but it is devastating when executed well. By placing a single prize between many envious hearts, you create a battlefield without lifting a finger. And in the aftermath, you stand above the ruins, untouched, as they weaken themselves. History shows this method repeatedly. Courts, kingdoms, corporations, and even friendships collapse not from external pressure, but from internal envy. All you need to do is introduce the spark and let human nature do the rest. The fifth strategy is to transform envy into loyalty. It sounds paradoxical, but even envy can bind someone to you if you play their emotions well. By granting recognition or small victories, you can turn resentment into reluctant admiration. The envious will always crave validation because comparison has made them insecure. If you feed them acknowledgement at the right moment, they will cling to you more desperately. They will resent you and yet seek your approval, locking themselves in a cycle you control. Machiavelli himself advised rulers to manipulate perception of their generosity. By rewarding in calculated doses, a prince could appear gracious while binding men to his service. The same principle applies today. Envy managed with attention becomes obedience disguised as rivalry. But let us not be naive. Envy is volatile, and even the best strategist must respect its danger. If left unchecked, it can grow into hatred that no amount of manipulation can contain. That is why the master of envy also masters fear. Fear, when applied carefully, acts as the boundary that keeps envy from mutating into rebellion. You allow them to resent you, but never allow them to believe they can overthrow you. Fear and envy together create the perfect balance. Fear restrains action, while envy fuels obsession. One makes them cautious, and the other makes them addicted to watching you. This dual force is why so many rulers lasted not by being loved, but by being envied and feared. Love is fleeting and fragile, but envy and fear are resilient emotions. They do not depend on kindness, but on power, and power is far more reliable than affection. You can see this in the modern world just as easily as in Machiavelli's Florence. Celebrities and these emotions bind audiences tighter than admiration ever could. To manipulate envy further, you must master your own mask. The envious are watching you constantly, searching for flaws to exploit. If you reveal your weaknesses openly, you give them weapons against you. So instead, you reveal only what serves you. Show just enough vulnerability to appear human, but never so much that it reduces your authority. Every move you make must be intentional, because their jealousy magnifies even your smallest gesture. Understand that envy is not only about what you have, but also about what you deny them. Sometimes it is not your possessions that provoke jealousy, but your independence. The fact that you need nothing from them is enough to enrage those who crave validation. This is why stoicism itself is a weapon against envy. When you show that you are unmoved by praise or insult, you rob envy of its power. They cannot manipulate a man who refuses to be defined by comparison. And so, envy becomes not just a danger, not just a resource, but a battlefield of the mind. If you enter it with strategy, you can turn enemies into pawns, rivals into distractions, and resentment into fuel. But if you enter it blindly, envy will consume you faster than any external enemy ever could. This is the Machiavellian truth. Envy is inevitable, but destruction is optional. The poison only kills the man who refuses to use it as a weapon. The wise drink it carefully, and in doing so, become immune. By now you see that envy is not simply an enemy to be feared. It is the unspoken force that shapes alliances, decisions, and reputations, and if you understand it deeply, you can bend it into a tool of endless advantage. So ask yourself, do you want to be envied and powerful, or ignored and forgotten? Because those are the only two options life truly gives. To live without envy is to live without significance, and to be envied is to know you matter. Envy has followed you since the moment you dared to rise above the crowd. It has haunted every leader, every ruler, every creator who stood apart from others. It is the unspoken tax of greatness, the silent cost of standing where few can. Machiavelli warned that no prince or ambitious man escapes the grasp of envy. The higher you climb, the heavier its presence presses against your steps. It clings like a shadow, following even when every light has gone dark. What separates the destroyed from the powerful is their response to its weight. The weak shrink themselves in fear, hoping to escape being envied at all. The strong expand themselves and force the world to choke on its bitterness. To master envy is to stop fearing its poison as if it were death itself. It is to drink it willingly, knowing it kills the unprepared but strengthens you. It is to wear it, not as a curse, but as the sharp crown of kings. Every insult they whisper is a confession that they cannot stop watching you. Every rumor they spread is proof of your influence over their fragile minds. Every jealous glance is silent applause that confirms your superiority. The question is never how to silence envy, for silence is impossible. The question is how to make it serve your rise instead of your ruin. Do you let it chain you down, or do you forge it into authority? The Machiavellian answer is ruthless yet clear. Let their envy work for you. Let it divide your rivals, expose your enemies, and confirm your importance. Let it show you who fears you most and who longs most to be you, and then move with the cold patience of the strategist who knows the truth. That envy is not punishment, but instead a renewable resource of power. Admiration flatters, but envy reveals the unvarnished truth of men. Admiration comforts, but envy sharpens the steel of your resolve. Admiration is soft, while envy is the sharp weapon in your hand. Those who envy you are slaves to their own endless comparisons. They cannot escape the torment of wishing for what belongs to you. They live shackled to illusions that they deserve your throne. In their torment lies your greatest opportunity for control and dominance. You do not need to strike them down, for envy consumes them already. You only need to stand tall and unbroken while they rot beneath it. But mastery requires more than endurance. It demands transformation itself. You must turn envy into respect, jealousy into recognition, resentment into fame. By doing so, you do not survive envy. You rule entirely through it. This is why the greatest men in history never begged for empty love. They knew universal approval was impossible, fleeting, and worthless. They accepted envy as proof of greatness sharper than love ever was. Alexander was envied by his generals, Caesar by his Senate, Napoleon by his rivals. Yet that envy only magnified the legends they carved into history, for no one envies the forgotten, the weak, or the irrelevant. The truth is undeniable. If you are not envied, you are nothing at all. To live without envy is to live without meaning or impact on the world. To live without envy is to die nameless, erased, and unremembered. So embrace the envy that surrounds you like fire circling your crown. Let it remind you that you are alive, feared, and dangerously significant. Let it confirm that you walk a path reserved only for the rarest few. But